important because look on how the moment there is a government agenda with this a political party will bring a representative of society voice to begin with. Why society voice is important? Because why? First of all, that is because they part of the nation, because they part of the nation, because they love their nation to begin with. For example, like Indonesia, society needs to be participate in the elections, right? Second of all, the people that will do the government agenda is society. Exactly, we need also the willingness and also contributions of citizens at the very first place. But lastly, with this a political party will be a recruitment of the society preference ideology at the very first place. Look on how in the US, for example, there is the liberal and conservative. What does it mean? They also make the universal, they also make the diversity of the ideology in the nation. How the universal common that we doesn't want in this debate? Because first of all, this narrative of the government is to be diversity, right? It means the value of society ideology should be prioritized. Because why? First of all, individual voice is really important. We can give the appreciations of these people to pursuing their ideology. For example, being a liberal person, and that is okay, right? Because why? First of all,
I don't think I can hear the L.
Sorry.
Kepencet tadi sama itunya.
Yeah, sorry. I'm so sorry.
This the natures of government is to be diversity. It means that the value of society ideology should be prioritized under outside of the house. Because why? Individual voice is really important. We can give the appreciations of these people to pursuing their ideology to begin with. For example, you as a being liberal person, for example, and that's okay, right? Because why? Because you are commitment to do this kind of ideology in the first place. But second also, there are also the willingness of these people to do the value of liberal at the first place. But lastly, they never give the because these persons will never give the harmful to the others a majority of people in the current status quo, right? Therefore, we think that status quo is not give the problematic in the government bank. Because why? The moment liberal is a winning, for example, you can still uphold the conservative value. Because why? Because there is also still a representative of the party on the political parties to begin with. Second of all, there is also the diversity will be more likely to create a happiness under outside of the house. Because why? Because there is also the understanding of another diversity value at the first place. You can learn as much as you can. You can love your different people of ideology to begin with. Therefore, the moment you are love, for example, you understand why the reason people is choosing the conservative value, for example, because there is also the value that they consensus to choose this kind of ideology. Therefore, there is also the tolerance that will be happen under outside of the house. But second of all, why this is also harmful the condition the moment we have to have the common ideology to begin with. First of all, the moment you just focus only one ideology, it should focus on the political party with one term ideology. This is harmful. They will not see another society or even representative of their value. The discrimination will be happen under the side of the house, Mr. Maramchan. Because what? Because there is no any representative of people to pursuing their ideology to begin with, right? Moreover, there will be no any platform that creating a betterment of the tolerances of the nation, for example. Under our side of the house, we at least open the mindset of the whole of the society to create a tolerance itself. Because notice the interest of the nation is that to create a peacefully of the society itself. Under our side of house, we create a peacefully the moment we are keep in touch on all of society ideology to begin with. We cannot limit on individuals' preference to begin with, because there are a willingness to do this kind of ideology to begin with. What our government said that have to prove to us is that why this is harmful the conditions of the status quo. But second of all, how the betterment that will be exist under the side of the house, because under our side of house we will create a motivation and also appreciation of the whole society the moment they are trying to uphold their individual preference to begin with. Therefore, we beg to oppose.
Okay, you spent time 7:33 minutes. Next, to sum up and close the case of the opening government, I call the Deputy Prime Minister to Miss Salma. Time is yours. You spent time 7:20 minutes. Am I audible? Yes, you are.
So wait, I'm beginning my speech in 3, 2, 1. So I want to make a clarification towards the opening opposition. First is that the unified ideology is not problematic in terms of capitalism, because take the example of US with like they have a diverse ideologies. The number of voters turnout is so low, and it is not exclusive harm on government house assessment, but rather yours. It is only because of the programs offered by political parties and the polarization. And also, I want to take it for example, like they always talking about the diversity, like tolerance, like if in the US, like you have like a kind of discussion on social activism, but take a look, for example, like in the US, there's a Black Lives Matter, and there is a white supremacy. This is show to you like how split they are, like how they actually cannot tolerate each other. Like take, for example, like there's a lot of like white supremacy that really against towards Black Lives Matter, and there are a lot of Black Lives Matter that like really hating, like giving a hate speech like towards the white supremacy and so on, so on. It proves to you that actually the tolerance it's not uh, not going to happen in their side. That is, take a look, for example, like using Pancasila, like in our country, like Indonesia, like you can see like there is a lot of like, for example, like the cases like about the ethnic group, like we can link back that into if we are like there is a case like ethnic group, like we always thinking like we are Indonesia, like we have to uh, go together as an Indonesia. Like there is no something like for example like Black Lives Matter and white supremacy, because we actually the tolerance is happen in our side, that is because those example case is proof to you that actually we are united as one, because we have underground ideology which is Pancasila, ladies and gentlemen. So and also about the thing that we have now diversity and so on so stuff. We believe that tolerance and we don't have discussion on so stuff, but we believe that the thing that becoming a discussion is our idea. We see that in Indonesia we have a lot of religion. We have see like in Indonesia we have a lot of ethnic group, and we can unite as one as Indonesia. It's rare for you to see like ethnic group cases in Indonesia. Like it's rare to you like see about how the chaos happened between two ethnic, because we remember again, like we have this Pancasila, like we have this kemanusiaan, we have the persatuan as the underground ideology. So I think that their argument about like diversity, tolerance, and so stuff is not going to happen in their side, but going to happen in our side. Now, moving to my extension about how if we are implementing this using Pancasila like as the political party's ideas to, for example, like to make a policy and so on, so on. We believe that take a like for example like in the economy, like if we are in using this Pancasila, actually the idea that we use in the economy, like we are using economic kerakyatan, which is from society and to society. It proves to you that there is all we are focus is for the society, ladies and gentlemen. But also in other hand, like we also allow, like for example, like there is a private company to put their startup. But again, we have the regulation that under the Pancasila that we need to focusing on a society, ladies and gentlemen. So the, for example, like the tax, like we don't have like too higher tax or too low tax, ladies and gentlemen. Meanwhile, in US world, like there is a liberalism and conservative. Like there's, of course, there's the, like for example, capitalism. It actually create another new cases, ladies and gentlemen, because in the capitalism, like in the liberalism, like, there is too big to there is the benefit for the private company is too big, ladies and gentlemen, because they can do everything like they want. They it create like the one who going to reach, like they can rich going rich, and the poor is going to more poorer, ladies and gentlemen. That is the word that we do not want, ladies and gentlemen. Meanwhile, like in a conservative, for example, like they don't want to open the market. They so it like it proves to you like how much you contribute, like how much you contribute to a country, like you still get the high tax, ladies and gentlemen. So you cannot improve your company, for example, yourself, ladies and gentlemen. This two thing is really different, ladies and gentlemen. It actually bad, and this diversity is really not having a good not having a good for this idea, ladies and gentlemen. And also take a look, for example, like the cases like happen, for example, like the racism, like in a if you are using Pancasila as a solution, we have this idea about the humanity and unity, ladies and gentlemen. We believe that this like racism is not going to happen because we we can remind each other that we are as a one. Meanwhile, in their side, like there is who the one who actually liberal, like oh I'm agree with the all ideology, but there's a conservative who we really strict about, and they about how they think that their race is the one who actually having a more privilege. So I think that's not.
Okay, you spent 15 minutes. To sum up the case of the opening opposition and close the opening debate, I call the deputy leader of opposition, Ms. Halimah Tuhana. Time is yours. You spend time 20 minutes.
Check, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, I arrange my paper. I'm starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. We think that the political parties still have the right to over the different advocates, and also the the solution in term based on their own view, right? Because truth of their program and also in their campaigns, for example, right? And also we make sure that we think that it's still okay if we make sure there is no public fool, for example, right? We think it's still okay under our side of that, and we think that it's still okay to have a different ideology in terms of this kind of campaign, in terms of this kind of political parties, because I will tell you in my argument. So but several rebuttals to the opening government. We think that opening government only rely on their idea on what this actually majority demands in itself, right? Because we think that how they actually glorify the effectivity of the coalitions that the coalition of each political party. Because why? Because they think that under our side we will create a limited cluster to get the coalition, right? We think it's still okay. Why? Because we think that we exclusively better on the quality of the coalition itself, right? Because we think that under our side of the house, we think that the numerous of the ideology, the coalition will happen under our side of that. For example, we think that the PSI, for example, is okay from the socialist party, at least they can represent in the parliament, for example, right? Even if they have a limited cluster, for example, because we think it's still okay, because first they actually new political party. I think they need more time to for example, to socialize their program, to have more to have more basis in terms of this kind of the party. We think that at the end of we think that still we think that at the end of the day, we think they actually can earn some of their basis and also their voters based on their program and so on and so forth. Secondly, let's kick their argument about the monopolize of the political party. For example, they actually have from the liberal party that they actually have the the exclusivity to win the election, for example, right? We don't think so, right? Because we think that the recruitment happen based on the programs of the political party and also based on their skill of the representative or the candidates in itself, ladies and gentlemen. Even if there is also a monopolize in the political world, for example, we think that it's still okay, right? Because we think that they have still a basic support system, for example. Even if the party is actually small, we think it's really important. But comparatively, in the South of the House, we think that there is also a probability of people that is individually to represent in parliament. Imagine, ladies and gentlemen, there is no support system that comes to this individual to represent in the parliament, for example. There is no better coalition that they want at the end of the day, right? So I'm going to talk about two things. First of all, what is the political parties better under our side of the house, and also what's the benefit that will comes under our side of the house. Firstly, let me tell you the access of the political party itself, because my first speaker has been extensively tell about the political interest itself, because we think that the political interest is about their program in campaign. For example, they go to participate in election no matter who you are, for example, from minority or even the majority, because we think that we actually hope the freedom of everyone, of the individual in itself, right? Because we think that the election also must be competitive based on based on the candidates, based on the political party whenever they actually comes from the liberals, and also how they comes from the minority in itself, ladies and gentlemen. Because we think that we think that the OG only rely on the majority interest, like they already told you about the ideology of Pancasila and so on and so forth. Because we think that diversity is really important, right? Because what we mean under diversity, that you as a liberal party, you as a conservative party, you can participate, you can give you can earn the aspirations from your basis, from the society in itself, right? This also means that it will increase the legitimacy of the political party in itself when they actually when they actually voted at the end of the day. We think when they want to solve the embodied problem, for example, like LGBT or Black people, for example, they can represent their program, for example, right? Because, for example, they comes from the liberal people, a liberal party, for example, they want to uphold the LGBTQ issue, right? Secondly, we think that under opening opposition, we think that we open all the ideologies that ideologies that we uphold the freedom of participation itself, but not, ladies and gentlemen, even if the voters, for example, will bias, for example, because of the right-wing party or the left-wing party, for example, but under our side it's still okay. First, we actually appreciate the voters perceive. Secondly, we think that we never force society to change their ideology, for example, to make sure that that the unity of people, because we think that the perceived population is actually complex, right? Because we think that the unity that the opening government want is actually it's actually not relevant at all, right? Because we think that their choices is actually be complex, that we cannot be united at the end of the day, right? We believe that the voters vote based on their program, for example, in campaigns such as the Obama give the less of disenfranchisement of the Black people, for example, with Obamacare and so on and so forth. We think that this is the main reason why American will vote Obama at the very first place. And also we think that under our side of the house, we think we can open more discourse on the political parties in itself. We can provide the check and balance about we think that first the likelihood is that we actually give the representation, for example, one of the representation from each of political party. For example, we think that the political party itself, the function is actually to provide the communication of the politics in itself, right? Therefore, we think that when riot happen, for example, we think the discourse still will happen under our side of the house. For example, that the liberal, for example, the PKS
PKS party, for example, can give the clarification on their basis, for example, about the society that actually cater to the PKS party, for example, or even the liberal people. They can give the clarification on the the clarification on the government's on the government program, on the government on the incumbent government policy, for example, right? We think that still we think that it will be better under our side of the house, and also we think that what's the benefit that will happen under our side of the house. We think that this will be the major issue, right? Because we think that we will decrease the member that is actually a goal. For example, that not food, for example, they are golput, for example, right? Because why? Because imagine, ladies and gentlemen, there is people hate Pancasila ideology, for example, they have the intention to not go to participation in not participate in the certain of election, right? We think that this still will never happen under our side of the house. Because why? Because it will break the democracy. It with the aspect of democracy in itself, ladies and gentlemen. And we think that we actually appreciate the number the number of diversity that will happen under our side of the house, and we think the diversity is still better. We are very proud to oppose.
Okay, you spent time 7:21 minutes. To open the closing debate, I call the member of government to Mr. Yudis. Time is yours. You spent time 7:20 minutes.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. There's like quite of engagement coming from the opening government to our case. Our opening talk about first things about policy and second things that our society at the end of the day. But we think that they never prove to you what if there's the different ideologies, it can create a bad result at the end of the day. They never think about that. They never see this kind of the result toward the different ideologies at the end of the day. That's the reason why it make me different to the opening government at the end of the day, and also give more different toward our case at the end of the day. Going to the opening opposition, they only talk about the communication toward the citizen in their parties, for example, but they never prove to you why with the different ideologies it's not only give the benefit toward the voters at the end of the day. This is the time that they never see this kind of the voters itself. Going to my rebuttal, that they say that there's not a problem if there's the different ideologies at the end of the day. We say no, ladies and gentlemen, because why? Because we think that there is the problem toward the different things, or even toward the different ideologies itself. Because why? Because we think that the benefit toward the election itself will going to be achieved when they vote in the first ideology, for example. They give benefit toward the voters, for example. They just see toward their voters at the end of the day. This is there is the possibility toward the different ideology create problems at the end of the day. That's the time that they never see this kind of the case itself. And let's talk about argument. That in this debate, I will bring one argument that why it can create a good regulation at the end of the day under our side of the house. First thing that we see, if you have a different concept, if you have a different base, also different ideology, it cannot resolve the problems at the end of the day. That's the time that we have to create these parties have a same ideologies at the end of the day. For example, in Indonesia, all of the regulation depend toward the Pancasila at the end of the day. No, First thing that we see that before there is the election, for example, we think there is the campaigns toward who create by the parties, for example, which is this is the time for their with those kind of the parties itself, they give the platform, for example, toward the society to begin with. This time actually if there is the different toward the ideology, that's the time that our society will going to see one mind, for example, one mindset, for example, at the end, and there's the one way at the end of the day, and then they trying to give the what they think, for example, toward the create regulation at the end of the day. That's the time that it can create a platform will be happen at the end of the day. And then there's the one ideology, it can create a counter toward the all of the sector at the end of the day. For example, like a sector of the culture, for example, like culture of the religion, for example. That's the time that one ideology have create a depend on the all of the factor all of the sector at the end of the day in this country. That's the time that there is the one ideology. That's the time that all of the regulation who create by the government, who create by who when there is after election will run away toward the one ideology at the end of the day. That's the time that there's the best on the one ideologies at the end of the day.
Go ahead, please.
No comparison under our side of the comparison under their side of the house. There's two ideology at the end of the day, because we think that, for example, like there is the minority, for example, but this is time that the voter itself that's the time that the vote they never vote the most ideology in this country. That's the time that the minority or even the conservative people will never get the power, for example, at the end of the day. That's the time that there is no one way toward they create a regulation, for example, create a different regulation, for example, just because they create they see based on their different on the best different ideologies itself. We think that all of the government, all of the parties have a political interest, for example. That's the time that there is the benefit who create by the parties will going to give benefit toward their voters, for example, toward their supporter, for example. This is the time that there is no the benefit toward their regulation, and it can create a bad regulation at the end of the day. We think that there is no one way, for example, there is no one mindset toward their side of the house, because we think that if there is the different things toward their side, it can create a how we can conclude that, how we can discourse that if we have a different if we have a different ideologies at the end of the day. This is the time that the all of the case, for example, all of the problem in their country will never get a solution, a best solution at the end of the day, just because they different things toward another parties, for example, just because the different ideologies toward their parties at the end of the day. That's the time that there's no solution. There is no the problem can resolve at the end of the day. We think that it is, if you want to vote, that's the time that you want to see what the regulation who good toward your life, for example, toward your own, who good toward our country. This is the time that it will create a good condition at the end of the day. But we think that there is no a good or even the good result at the end of the day in their side of the house. That's the reason we beg to propose this motion. Thanks.
Okay, you spent time 7:24 minutes. To respond the case of the closing government, I call the member of opposition I call the member of the opposition to Mr. Dennis. Time is yours. You spend time 7:20 minutes.
All right. My speech will start in 3, 2, 1. A standing and functioning government needs different parts of the bodies, right? And ideologies represent these people. Ideologies represent the struggles that we want to achieve, the interest of these people, what is needed in order to function better in society. We say that ideologies differs from people to people, right? For example, the interests of the people in NTT might differ from those who are in Jakarta, and we believe that ideologies can bring policies that will benefit the whole country. Our goal in this debate is to have different parties of the government that are able to aspire for different needs in society, right? Not just on one need that is split into two different approaches. For example, if you talk about the US, then you have different kinds of interests in different kinds of states, and these would cater for all of the people, right? Right now, everywhere in the world, we believe that each country has a proposing as well an opposition side. The proposing side will champion their ideology, their own ideology, and opposition party will have their own ideology. If you remove these kinds of ideology, then you don't have a benchmark in order for them to achieve the policy that they want. For example, if you're only using Pancasila, we say that it is not effective at the end of the day, and I'll explain this in my argument later on. Now, one rebuttal and the other will be integrated. Now let's talk about one rebuttal that was responding to the case of the closing government side, right? The government side literally talks about how they're able to cater to all sectors. When you unite one ideology, you're able to use that as a tool to cater to push for policies, right? But we say that when you silence the voice of, for example, the young generations, right? PSE is made from young generations and millennials that are able to give you a new perspective, a new ideology in which we need in order to fix Indonesia, for example, right? These voices tell you that exploitation is bad, corruption is bad, we need to, for example, fix the environment, and these voices are now gone. You have one ideology and you support one side that is too dominant, right? Now, under closing opposition side, we'll talk about how this limits the government approach to different problems, and we'll also talk about effectivity and why ideology is very important. Going to my first argument, how this limits the scope of government to approach different problems within the country. Panels, what you need to understand is that when you're trying to achieve a universally common goal, your focus on problems that exist in society is too small, right? You close the scope, right? Because right now, without these ideologies, then you don't know what people want, right? In order to push out a policy, you need a proposition and the opposition side that has two different ideologies and be able to represent different parts of the country. Now, first layer on how policies are now less effective to be pushed under their side of the house. Now, we say that when you agree to on a common problem, then your policies are so centered, right? Keep in mind that political parties are very geographically centered. For example, PSE, they're centered in Jakarta, and there's other kinds of parties that are centered in other regions of Indonesia. Hence, when you have different ideologies from different places, you are able to effectively push policies different kinds of policies that spreads to your kinds of region, right? For example, a political party that is based in Jakarta, PSI, they would advocate policies in which they want to save environment, while on the other hand, you have parties such as PDIP that wants to push bills like taxes and be able to focus on the economy of Indonesia. These kinds of political parties have different approaches and focus in the first place, right? Hence, what you get under their side are policies that are too centered to one geographical location in Indonesia, because ideologies that champions these minorities are now shut down. You won't be able to know what the minorities want, what the people want, right? Their struggles. Instead, they have to comply and try to bring a different approach to this problem. Second layer, we say that policy and the needs of society is always evolving, right? The needs of society is fluid, it evolves. When OG talks about how Pancasila is good enough, we can use Pancasila as a policy. as a benchmark, right? But we see that Pancasila might not work 100 years in the future. Why? When you talk about universal common goal, this can only happen if two sides are facing the same problem and the same opponent, right? When two sides have do not have different interests. Maybe back in 1945, we said that when the common goal of Indonesia is to be independent, yes, we can use Pancasila. But keep in mind that political parties have different interests now. When you talk about the 21st century, things such as achieving economical stability and to put Indonesia on the map, people will have different ideologies on this, right? This is the characterization that was never explained by any of the other benches. Hence, a universally common goal is unachievable and not in line with today's demands. Because if you don't have ideologies, then you don't know what the society needs, for example, again, political parties are also evolving. You have now millennials that are able to speak out and show their ideology that is able to fix Indonesia. Second argument on why different worldwide or ideologies is important to achieve a successful government, right? First layer, different worldviews gives the opposition side to critique and fix the government. When it comes to policy making, there's no perfect policy, right? And everything needs fixing. When you're able to take both sides' ideology, for example, you're left with one ideology, then you're unable to critique regarding the view that you're supporting right now, right? Hence, you also lose diversity of ideologies when you support their side of the house. Now, different worldviews is very important because one ideology might not be able to shed light to an ongoing problem or to push to or be able to push an urgent policy, right? If you entirely remove this ideology, you lose the urgency to fix a problem that you might not even heard of within the society. And we say that a government system is better when you have more voices and more ideas. Yes, we say that it might be hard to cater to all of the needs, but this is the function of the government. Second layer on why political parties have their personal interests. Keep in mind that they want voters at the end of the day, right? Voters comes from locals vote, right? The voices of the local, they have their own ideologies. You know how human beings can be, right? They have their own ideologies. Hence, if you're trying to unite ideologies, you also need to think about these people. It is very unfeasible. And at the end of the day, you will only weaken the opposition side. Because when the opposition side has to side with the ideologies of the proposition side, then the voters would lose interest in voting for them. And you have a politically unstable country now. Because right now, you have proposition side that is too dominant with their ideology, and you have a society such as the opposition side that are unable to speak out. They lose voters, and hence they lose in the government. Thus, we're proud to oppose. Thank you.
Okay, you spend time 20 minutes. To sum up and close the case of the closing government, I call the government whip to Mr. Komang. Time is yours. You spend time 20 minutes.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. We'll stop my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panels, there's quite lack of engagement coming from opposition bands to our case. Panels, all the bands hike from the opposition team is only rely on one assumption that are not capable in this debate, right? I want to talk about 3 things. I want to talk about the democracy system that will be lost by the local opposition in opposition bands that we will not lose in our side. Secondly, I want to talk about the ideologic on one purpose that is acceptable by the opening government, that will creditable in closing of government, that you will not acceptable in opposition bands in this debate, right? And third and finally, I want to talk about the political interest of the political parties and how it necessitates of one of ideologic and how it necessitates understanding of the liberalism or conservative in itself, right? That is not vulnerable by the country that is government. Several better toward the opposition bills. First, they said if you are use one of the ideology, for example, that is to make increase the discrimination is will happen at the end of the day. We say no, ladies and gentlemen. Why so? Because discrimination is happen when they are not unfairly, because our identity, for example, our characteristic, some in separate. Not this. If there is a one of ideology, it doesn't necessarily mean they are not have a right to speak up for the political parties itself. They are not have the right to voice speak up in this separate. That's the time they still has the right, they still has the response, they have still right of body autonomy to speak up if there are the discrimination or the political parties in itself is not give the prosperity coming from their side of the house, is not representative in the side of the house, right? That's the time that therefore the discrimination it will not happen in our side of the house at the end of the day. And second one is that they say if there is a different will be lost, that interest of the individual will be lost at the end of the day. We say no, listen, because with the one of ideologic or defund or we still defund or protect of the all of the society, listen. It doesn't necessarily mean we are not protect the society. Also, we are not defund the protect our society, but it's still all of the culture, for example, all of the ethnic is still protect at the end of the day. That's the time that different that will be different itself for the individual is still exist at the end of the day, right? That's going in my classes. In this debate, I have two classes. First, which side better to make a good regulation at the end of the day? And second one is that, which side better to effective and efficient to achieve their interest of the government in itself? Going to the first, which proposal side better to make a good regulation? Panels, look, get what happened in that side of the house. In the side of the house, that in America, for example, there is a liberal and a conservative of parties, for example, that there is a two different of the parties of the ideology in a separate. That's the time there is if there is a different of the parties of the ideology, that they have several the ideology at the end of the day, right? That yes, we admit with the political parties is a platform for the individual in itself, but it doesn't necessarily mean if there has the platform between the parties and society in itself, that the society who don't have the discrimination, for example, cannot speak up for the political parties in itself, but still they have still the body autonomy for themselves. There is a right for themselves to speak up for the political parties to begin with, right? That's the time there is a check and balance coming from the government and the society in the very first place. Even if when there is a discrimination, for example, they still have people who
aku doang nggak dengar.
Aku juga nggak dengar.
Oke.
Di mute sama LO.
I'm sorry. No, I don't mute.
I didn't too.
Mungkin kepencet sama dia. Government web.
You're muted.
Suaramu tak ada. Tadi dari interest government, something like that, I forgot. Discriminative people, people yang kena discrimination, ya nggak sih? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, even if discrimination.
Yeah, even if discrimination happens.
Okay, sorry. Bisa kepencet ya? I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Even if when there is a discrimination, for example, that they still have a right for speak up, for example, for speak up for the political parties in this, for example. That's the time there is a check and balance coming from the society or citizen to the political parties in a separate. What does it mean? It means the political parties have the interest to become the representative for the government to begin with, right? Therefore, panels exactly if the opposition thinks that to stupid, because why? Because the discrimination, because exactly when there is a discrimination, they cannot counterbalance. They are not have a platform. Is not have the parties to parties who backlash in this debate, right? Look, guess what happened? Guess what happened in their side of the house? Why should one propose in this debate? No, thanks. Like in Indonesia, for example, we have one of parties endorse of Pancasila, for example. That notice if we must to one a purpose, it doesn't instrument. We are not doing discussion for all of the citizen in suffrage. That there is a discussion to that the endorse of the Pancasila in suffrage. That look, if we are use the of one of ideologic, that the country will be focused on one of the ideologic in suffrage. Notice if there is our ideologic, for example, that it doesn't necessarily mean they have voice that they are not have people in supply panels. Exactly, if there is a one of ideologic that there is a pick up for the political parties in supply that's why that if there is a speak up for themselves, for example, they have the one ideologic for themselves, that's the time they will make the good regulation, for example, for the citizen or for the all the government in itself. Even if there is still there to speak up, listener, that it take more time, it will more spend more time. That's the time they are decrease the chaos at the end of the day, right? But second process is which side proposal set effective and efficient to achieve their interest of the government. Look, guess what happened in their side of the house? If there is a big party, for example, like if there is a two ideology, that there is a big party or small party, for example, that there is a different of ideology, for example, in a suffrage, it can create small party or party who lost, for example, they will not choose the voters in the suffrage. That's the time the golput, for example, is only happen in their side of the house, that is not only happen in our side of the house, right? That's the time if their side of the house prefer political culture in itself, that's the time the proposal which side will not effective and efficient at the end of the day, and not of the government cannot achieve interest of the government itself. Comparison in our side of the house, all the political parties is become one of the defund or one of the ideologic. That's the time that there is one of ideologic itself. For example, in Pancasila, for example, that's the time it was protect the all of the party in itself. What does it mean? It means that there is no discrimination will be happen in our side of the house. That the discrimination only happen in the side of the house. Because why? Because first if there is a we are prepare, for example, that's the time will be protect at the end of the day. We probably to propose this motion.
Okay, you spend time 7:34 minutes. To close the debate, I call the opposition whip. To Mr. Arifin, time is yours. You spend time 7:20 minutes.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. My POI preferences, you can chat, and if I allow you, I will glad to speak. Okay. My speech, wait, let me set my timer. Okay. Okay. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Mr. and Madam Speaker, our stand as closing opposition is clear. We want different parties of advocates for different worldview because it creates better visibility on the outcome solution and not limiting the probability for outcome solution. So therefore, people can criticize each other because they don't have the same common goal. Therefore, the solution outcome will be better at our side and can gather more views about the problem itself. I will explain furthermore in my substantive. Through the course of this debate, government and opposition have clashed on point of first, the effectivity of the policy. Second, feasibility of policy making. Third, and I will explain about who can cater the needs of minorities. Fourth, I will explain about the political stability inside a country. Okay, first about the feasibility. In comparison, let's look at the practical outcome. What you get under government basis. There is no critics because they had the same goal, and it is bad because there won't be critical analysis on the solution outcome. Under closing opposition, the condition is far much better because there is no limitation. We can achieve better solution because many views about the problem can be integrated and create a better solution. Second, there are critics. If we meet one universal goals, the outcome solution will be better. So there are arguments about the feasibility are falling down, and I will explain furthermore. Political feasibility is a measure of how well the solution to a policy problem will be accepted by a set of decision makers and general public. For a policy to be enacted and implemented, it has to be feasible. So to produce the best solution toward a social problem, feasibility plays an important role. Closing government has tried to tell you that different ideologies is not giving benefit and it will make policy. It will ruin the country. We say that this is nonsense. This is wrong. Are you saying that all liberalism country policy is bad? No, right? US is a great country and their policy is not bad. CG doesn't realize that there will be critics about the policy. Critics can only happen better at our side when you don't have such thing as value limitation and there are no constraints. We say that when we say about limitation or constraint, it doesn't mean that you can make a policy or anything just by yourself and just by what you want. No, there will be check and balance from other party, and we say that check and balance only better at our side. Critic will better if you had different worldview towards each other. Why? That means you can gather more view, you can gather more opinion, and so on and so forth. It is proof by part of PSA, as my member has already said. This will lead the policy making process. It will better, and because it can gather more view, more opinion, and we can integrate one by one to look for the best outcome, for what best for the solution for the problem, and the policy will be better. And at the end of the day, second, about the effectivity, let's look in comparison. Let's look at the practical outcome what you get under government. Their solution is not going to be effective because you cannot make it fast, you cannot gather many, and you cannot gather many region. Under closing opposition, the condition is far much better. The solution will be more fast. You can gather more religion. I will explain. Because as my member have already said, political parties are geographically centered. When you have one ideology, then you cannot know what other part of society needs. You cannot gather regions that is urgent and in need of funding, right? We say that ideology also talks about the struggle as well as the demands of the people. The problem under this side is that doesn't matter if you have different solution to one problem. Not everyone can agree to that at the end of the day, and this make your decision so slow, because now parties are forced to come up with new solution and compete in solution. We say that this is ineffective because sometimes what one solution might be best when you do this. The opposition side, for example, has no more stance. We say that there will be parties that are unjustified, but at least under our side, we say that we shielding light to the more problem, to hear the people's struggles instead of debating and trying to find best solution. Those problems itself might not be urgent in the first place, right? Under our side, we can find the most urgent problem. We will dig deep to the best for the best solution, and we will tackle it using the needs of people, because the problem in NTT cannot be solved with the demands of those people. You cannot force them by providing a new solution that might not be effective. We say that collecting the people's aspiration is better than debating about the best solution. So support opposition if you support people's power. Third class is who can gather needs of minorities. Under our side, ideologies are people's struggles and what they believe in. As my member has already said, we say that we will listen to them when they are able to aspire about their ideologies. This way, we can gather what people really need. We say that we will listen to them when they are able to aspire about their ideologies. Minorities' needs can only be accomplished when ideologies are heard. There are so many cultures, geographical location, with minorities and races that dominated different parts of Indonesia. This is exactly why why under our side ideologies give minorities a chance to speak up and be able to tell about their ideology is better. Worst case, under this side, if we are unable to tackle all the views advocated by the other party, at least under our side, we can still create this discourse around the problem that needs to be tackled, because in country like in Indonesia, there will be million problems and you need million solutions instead of 1 million solution to one problem. And the last thing about the political stability inside a country. Political stability can only be achieved when you have power balance, right? Ideology is important because it represents the voice present the voice of millions of people when this ideology is being championed and being supported. Then you also need people on the other hand to balance this power, that so that one side are unable to gain too much power or to dominate, because at least under our side people's voice are separated. Hence you have part of the government that are able to fight and oppose the dominant side. Therefore, the political stability inside a country is the condition is going to be far more better at our side. So in conclusion, in comparison, what you get under closing opposition is, one, our policy is more effective, is better, policy effectivity is better at our side. Second, visibility of policy make is better at our side. Third, our side can more cater to the needs of minorities. Fourth, you are able to achieve balance in power. Hence, by all these points, we should win this debate, and we are very proud to speak in grand final. Thank you.
Okay, you spent time 14 minutes. Okay, yeah, thank you for the debate, and see you soon on our closing ceremony at 5 p.m. Western Indonesian time this day. Thank you, everyone. Good luck.
Thank you, Kak.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Has everyone left?
Not yet.
Okay.
Can spectators and also team leave the room so that the judges can deliberate? Thank you.
Or Kak, Ejunya di-move aja ke salah satu breakout room kali ya, biar partisipannya stay di main hall.
Boleh.
Sure.
Alright. Kak Pandu sama Kak Fajar udah di-assign ke room breakout 1. Alright, untuk participants, for Novice Grand Final, the final announcement will be at 5 p.m. So be aware with the announcement that will going to be exist on the WhatsApp group ya guys.
Nanda, I belum di invite ke breakout room.
Alright, Kak Shiro sama Kak Melinda udah di-assign.